Dee Wallace, it is so lovely to be Zooming with you. Great to see you again.
It's good to be here because I love my Australia.
I can remember you came down under, as they say, what, about 5 or 6 years ago to make a little horror movie called Red Christmas. Is that right?
I sure did. I loved every minute of it. And I love the film.
A horror movie, which is a genre that you are no stranger to when you think about it. I mean, I know Scream Queens are all the rage in Hollywood right now, but you've been doing it longer than almost anyone. I think probably around about 45 years. Would that be right?
You'd be right.
Tell me about that very first horror movie that you made, Dee.
That would be The Hills Have Eyes with Wes Craven.
What was Wes Craven really like to work with?
He's just real and available. That's kind of rare in our business.
You talk to anybody who's worked with Wes Craven and they all say the same thing. He's an absolute gentleman. He's such a different man than you'd imagine.
And quiet. Not at all the kind of person that you think would produce these horrific movies. You know, Stephen King also very quiet, very reserved when you meet him.
Well, of course, speaking of Stephen King, you starred in Cujo, which in itself an astonishing tale with that rampaging dog. There was more than one dog that brought Cujo to life, though, as I understand.
Oh, yeah, 13 different dogs, and that included the stuntman in the dog suit. The real dogs really did all of their own stuff in the movie, and they were all trained to go after toys. So we literally had to tie their tails down with fish wire a lot of times so that you wouldn't see them wagging their tails and having so much fun. So Danny and I were never frightened of the dogs ever. They were just so well trained. You have to understand that every scene that you see, we probably had to shoot 12 to 15 times with a kid and a dog, right? Although I have to say, Danny Pintaro, oh my God, thank you God that I ended up with that kid. He was unbelievable. It was like working with another adult professional. Amazing.
Yes, he really, I mean, from a very young age, just had that special something, that magic. Drew Barrymore had it, of course. And Danny had that. Have you been in touch with Danny over the years? Did you remain close?
Yeah. We're in touch, and we do a lot of conventions together. And I'm working on him to get back into acting, and I think he's maybe on the verge of making that decision too. What
was Stephen King like?
Again, very quiet. Very sweet. I don't know. I think these writers that are quiet have another side and they let it out in their creativity, all this horror and angst stuff that goes on with them.
You had us all terrified in another movie, and that movie, of course, was The Howling. What was that like to make?
It was a lot of fun because I was engaged to Christopher, who played my husband in it. It makes it very different on the set when you have somebody you're close to and you're in love with and you help each other get through.
You're talking, of course, your late husband, Christopher Stone.
Yeah.
Were you dating when you both got that role, or what came first? The fact that you were dating, or did you meet on the set of that movie?
We met on Chips, on an episode of Chips. And I went in and auditioned and I got the part, and Dan Black called me and said, Dee, we've got a really great supporting cast lined up for you. We're just still looking for somebody to play your husband. And I said, well, what exactly are you looking for? Well, he's got to be really virile, but with a real sensitive side. And I went, oh my God, I'm engaged to him. But in that second, I also said, don't you dare say that, Dee, they'll never hire him. So I said, you know, there's this guy I did Chips with, Christopher Smith or Stone, or some S name. Well, they went out and found him and brought him in. He auditioned, he got it on his own. So, the next day, Dan, our producer, calls me and I pick up and he goes, Dee? And I went, hi, Dan. He said, oh, I must have called the wrong number. You know that guy that you recommended? We found him and we loved him and we hired him. And I said, no, you called the right number, Dan. And there was this long pause. And then I heard, oh, shit.
What an absolutely beautiful story that is.
Yeah,
Your
Chris
husband-
and I, we had 18 fabulous years together before he passed.
What took him?
It was an aneurysm, a heart aneurysm. He'd had a heart attack while I was doing The Frighteners. And I flew back and they did an angioplasty and he was fine. He said, Pupper, go back. They're waiting for you. So I flew back to finish filming. And 4 days later, he got up and a blood clot hit his heart and he was gone. So I flew back again. We were back and forth across half the world 4 times in 2.5 weeks.
Do you feel Christopher around you? Is he
All
there?
the
Is he like
time.
an angel on your shoulder?
All the time. He sends me little, messages like through the TV. He was a big TV watcher. And so the TV will come on all by itself. When I remarried years later, I said, Christopher, just give me a sign that you're signing off on this and you're okay. And all the clocks in the house stopped at 5:04. I'm connected to the other side. I always have been since I was a little girl.
It's interesting looking at that side of your life and your connection to the universe and so forth. You made a fabulous movie that is this year celebrating its 40th anniversary, which
Yes.
of course is E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Did that movie have an even greater significance to you because of that connection with otherworldly beings and people from the other side and so forth?
Absolutely. And, now that I'm doing all my healing work, I look back, it's like it's a no-brainer that I would do that film because it was all about keeping your heart open, keeping your heart light on, and getting back to the home of you, which is the basis of all my teachings.
I read somewhere that Steven Spielberg cast you in the role as the mum, Mary, in E.T., after having seen you on an episode of Lou Grant where you played a hooker.
That's true, but when he saw me, he saw the quality that he wanted in Mary.
And what quality was that he was looking for?
Childlike. He wanted, that's why you don't see any other adults really until you see the doctors. He wanted the mother to be childlike and innocent and naive within herself.
That's so true. That's not something I'd seen before, but I see it now.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty much who I am.
Drew Barrymore, of course, was 6 when she made that movie. And I think it was her second movie. Altered States was her first, if I'm correct. Certainly, Drew Barrymore at 6 had a magic, didn't she?
Oh, for sure. We knew she was going to be a director back then. She walked up to me the first day on the set, and I was sitting in my tall director's chair, and she looked up to me and she said, "Hi, Dee, I'm going to sit on your lap now." And I said, "Okay, Drew, come on up." She was just a little spitfire who had an opinion about everything. And all those, Henry was quiet and sweet and totally knew who he was, what he wanted, and how to do it as an actor. And Robert was brilliant. The older son, just brilliant in the movie, I think. So, I love working with kids and dogs.
Are you and Drew still in touch to this day?
No, not so much. I'm in touch with the boys all the time. We do conventions together.
Even just looking at her life, having come from that extraordinary acting dynasty, and then she kind of went off the rails, but then to find that salvation and to get herself so back on track and to become such an inspiration. Even as her movie mum, you must feel this great sense of pride in the fact that she did that full circle journey.
I think that's what we all have to do. So I think that's the challenge for all of us, which is why I wrote Born, my new book, because I know the formula of how to do that and how to recreate yourself in this moment so you are happy and free and live the life you want to live.
How did you find that, Dee? How did you kind of crack the code to knowing about your life, to figuring not making the same mistakes again and building from it, learning from it and moving forward and past those obstacles?
An incredibly strong mother and grandmother who were rooted in religion, but very real and fun. Mm-hmm. No matter what happened to them, they were powerful and they were strong, and they got back up and they kept recreating who they were. So I knew the part of Mary really well because my mother was a strong single mother. Mm-hmm. And then after E.T., I was a strong single mother. It's just an understanding that I have really well. I think that's the biggest challenge some of us have, is that we became not acknowledged in our lives, not respected in our lives. In some ways, that gives us a reason not to be the greatest us we can be today. And if you can get past that and say, you know what, that was last season. I'm going to write a new story for this season, because nobody else can do it for us. Nobody. We have to make the choice that we're going to move on.
So you're suggesting, Dee, the best way to move on is to almost look at your life as a book, a series of chapters, and you just must be determined to close the page on that chapter and then write the new part.
Absolutely.
Of forward.
And not to judge it, not to throw the book away, but just to say, okay, I learned a lot of lessons this season that I can apply to this season of my life now. Mm-hmm. You know, so many people that I work with in my healing work think that thoughts and feelings just happen and you can't do anything about them. But we were given free will. And nobody can think a thought for you or feel a feeling for you or hold a belief or perspective for you that you don't choose, which makes us the creator of ourselves through free will on this plane. And when you get that power back, then your life changes.
You are a teacher, you are a healer, and you conduct your healing for people all over the world. If somebody is watching now and they think, I want to reach out to Dee Wallace, I would love to have some of her incredible intuition or life lessons or guidance or healing, how can they find you?
You can find everything on my website. I am deewallace.com. You can find webinars in my store about anything and everything you would want to explore. Of course, my 6 books, 7 now, with my children's book, Bupalopaloo. My God, don't we wish we had been taught all this when we were kids?
Outside of your Scream Queen career, little known fact, you played the character Mary in Blake Edwards' wonderful movie 10 with Dudley Moore, with Julie Andrews and the fabulous Bo Derek. What was that like to work on?
That was really my first big major movie with a major director. Blake just took me under his wing, and I'll never forget the first day on the set. He came up to me and he said, "Dee, so nice to have you here. Is everything all right?" I said, "Oh, Mr. Edwards, my room is so beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm so appreciative, but I don't see my trailer. Can you tell me where my trailer is?" Well, my agent had not negotiated a trailer for me. He looks to Tony Adams, his associate producer, and goes, "Where's her trailer?" And Tony goes, "It's on its way, Mr. Edwards. It's on its way." And he said, "Until it arrives, she is staying in with Miss Derek."
So you and Miss Derek shared a trailer?
Well, only the first day, man. They got that trailer down there in record time. And, you know, Blake wrote the script. He was probably the most prolific producer, writer, director we've ever had. And it was at the very beginning when directors were starting to watch the monitors. And so he was right over on the adjoining soundstage. And I remember the first take we did, I was just trying to keep up with Dudley. Dudley was all over the place doing all his magic. And I thought, well, screw it. I'm just going to go in and play with him. And we finished the first take, and there was this long silence. And Blake says, "Well, I don't know who the hell wrote it, but we're sure going to print it." It was just a magical. A lot of the people that he brought down to play the supporting parts were let go before they filmed. And I remembered calling home going, "Well, I probably am not going to end up in this movie, but I'm sure having fun being here." But I did. And he used to say to me, you're just a young Lee Remick, Dee Wallace. That's who you are. You're just a young Lee Remick."
Well, I have to say, Dee Wallace, that's one heck of a fabulous accolade coming from one heck of a fabulous man.
Oh,
when I mentioned Dudley Moore, I got the sense that you really adored him and cherished your time with him.
I did. Dudley and I danced on a few tabletops in Mexico after a few drinks.
He loved a good time, did he?
We would go out with the crew. Oh, he knew how to have a good time. And he was genuinely one of the sweetest, nicest, kindest, most real people I ever knew.
Tell me about Julie Andrews, because she just has such a charisma about her. There is such an air
Beautiful
of
lady.
fabulous.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful heart, beautiful lady. Kind, sweet. Yeah. The whole shoot was like that. It was pretty magical.
We began our chat talking about you being one of the great scream queens of Hollywood. What do you think is the secret behind that scream?
I don't act. That's the short answer.
What about a scream from you? Can you let out a rattling
dear
scream?
God. Just a scream?
Yeah, that's it. Just for Australia.
Best I can do in a chair.
Yeah. And do you know what? Los Angeles now just thinks it had a 6.7 on the Richter scale.
My guy just came in to see if I was all right. I guess it was a good enough scream.
I have to say that beautiful screen behind you nearly fell over as you leant back.
Yeah. Did you buy that I was scared?
Yes, yes, and I saw the way you got into that, and it was quite extraordinary. So, Dee Wallace, what is next on the horizon for you, movie-wise, television-wise?
Right now, I'm doing a lot of promotion for my 2 books. It's really my passion to help people live happier lives. This week, I start a Western. After that, I start a romantic comedy. I'm hoping to go back on a pretty big television show over here that's pinned me for 3 episodes, but I can't talk about it. And, I do private healing sessions with people every day and interviews, and I write emails, weekly emails for all my clients. I do a lot.
If you were to sum up happiness, how can you find happiness? How can people watching now who maybe don't have happy lives because they don't realize actually what happiness is and how to access it, how can they make their lives happy?
You're never really truly going to find happiness until you choose to love yourself. It's the most important thing you can do, and something that we are all taught not to do. That it's blasphemous and selfish, and people aren't going to like us, and God for sure isn't going to like us. And it's just false teachings. When you love yourself in the highest way and know your true magnificence, you are so filled up that you have so much more to give everyone else.
Beautiful words, Dee. Beautiful words from a fabulous person. It has been really lovely to catch up with you again.
Oh, you too, darling.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this interview with the fabulous Dee Wallace. Now, if you'd like to see more of the legends you love, it's very simple. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, and you do so by clicking the button. It is that simple, and we look forward to seeing you soon.